A young hunter walked back into camp with absolutely nothing. No deer, no rabbit, not even a handful of berries. By modern standards, he had just wasted his entire day. No paycheck, no progress, no results. If this happened today, someone would probably tell him to work harder tomorrow. But 20,000 years ago, nobody looked disappointed. His family smiled as he approached. A woman handed him a bowl of roasted roots gathered earlier that morning. Children ran toward him laughing. An older man quietly took the hunter's spear and began repairing its cracked stone tip. Nearby, another family was already sharing meat from yesterday's successful hunt. Nobody asked, "So, what did you accomplish today?" Because everyone in the camp already knew something we often forget. No one survives alone. One person's unsuccessful day had never belonged to just one person. It belonged to the entire community. That tiny moment completely changes how we imagine prehistoric life. We've been taught that ancient humans spent every waking second desperately trying not to die. Movies show them running from predators, searching endlessly for food, fighting brutal winters, sleeping on empty stomachs, then waking up to repeat the same nightmare again. It's an exciting story, but archaeology paints something surprisingly different. Yes, life was dangerous. Children died, hunts failed, storms arrived without warning. But those moments weren't every moment. Most days were surprisingly ordinary. In fact, many anthropologists now believe ancient hunter-gatherers may have worked fewer hours than the average office worker today. That sounds ridiculous. How could people living beside mammoths have more free time than people with supermarkets? The answer begins with one simple idea. Nature has something called enough. Modern life rarely does. Imagine waking up just after sunrise. The fire from last night is still warm. Your family still has meat hanging above slow smoke from yesterday's hunt. The women already know where fresh berries are growing. Water flows from a nearby stream. Your clothing was repaired before winter arrived. The shelter needs no attention. There is no emergency, no crisis, no urgent deadline. What would you do next? Most of us instinctively answer the same way. Keep working, gather more food, build another shelter, make more tools, earn more, save more, produce more. Ancient humans often stopped, not because they lacked ambition, because they had already reached enough. One successful hunt might feed dozens of people. More meat would simply spoil. Gathering another 100 berries made little sense if most of them would rot before anyone could eat them. Owning 10 extra spears only created 10 extra things to carry during migration. Unlike us, ancient humans paid a price for everything they owned. Every possession had weight. Every unnecessary tool slowed the entire group. Simplicity wasn't philosophy, it was efficiency. Perhaps that's why researchers studying traditional hunter-gatherer societies kept reporting the same surprising observation. Groups such as the Hadza in Tanzania and the Jew, Hoanzi in southern Africa, often spend only 3 to 5 hours each day gathering food and completing essential survival tasks. The rest of the day doesn't disappear. It simply belongs to something else. At first, anthropologists thought maybe people were just resting. They weren't. They were constantly doing things, just not the kind of things we usually call work. Someone repaired tomorrow's spear before it broke. Someone reshaped an old stone knife to make it sharper. A young mother taught her daughter how to recognize poisonous plants. Children chased each other across fallen trees. Teenage boys practiced throwing wooden spears at old stumps. An elderly woman carefully twisted animal sinew into thread. Nobody looked busy, yet almost everyone was preparing for something. The strange part is that these activities didn't feel separate. Today, we divide life into categories: work, school, exercise, family, entertainment. Ancient humans rarely separated them. A father teaching his son how to throw a spear wasn't taking time away from work. That was work. A grandmother teaching sewing wasn't a hobby. That was survival. Children climbing rocks weren't wasting energy. They were training balance long before anyone called it exercise. Every ordinary afternoon quietly became another lesson. Long before classrooms, education happened almost everywhere. Nobody announced the beginning of class. Nobody handed out homework. Nobody gave exams. Children simply watched adults, copied them, made mistakes, tried again. A 5-year-old carrying tiny sticks wasn't pretending to gather firewood. He was learning how adults gathered real firewood. A little girl wrapping animal hide around a wooden doll wasn't playing house. She was practicing skills she would someday use to keep her own children warm. Play and education blended together so completely that nobody could tell where one ended and the other began. Even adulthood looked different. Today, we often measure success by productivity. How many hours did you work? How many emails did you answer? How many tasks did you finish? Ancient humans probably measured success another way. Did everyone eat? Did everyone stay warm? Would the group survive tomorrow? If the answer was yes, the rest of the day became something almost impossible for many modern people. Free, not empty. Free, time that belonged entirely to the community. Ironically, that free time may have become one of humanity's greatest evolutionary advantages. Because while stronger animals spent nearly every waking hour searching for food, humans spent increasing amounts of time doing something no predator could ever understand. Talking. At first glance, conversation seems almost useless. It doesn't build shelters. It doesn't sharpen spears. It doesn't fill empty stomachs. Yet ancient humans may have spent more time talking than doing almost anything else. And once scientists understood why, they realized conversation wasn't simply entertainment. It may have been the invisible technology that allowed our species to conquer the entire planet. If you're enjoying uncovering these forgotten chapters of human history, Human Stories is where we explore the remarkable decisions, discoveries, and everyday moments that quietly shaped who we are today. Because what those conversations actually accomplished may be the most important thing ancient humans ever invented. Conversation wasn't simply filling empty hours. It was quietly changing the future. Imagine two neighboring camps living only a few miles apart. One group keeps everything to themselves. A hunter discovers a safer river crossing. He never tells anyone. An old woman learns which mushrooms become poisonous after heavy rain. She dies before sharing it. A young man invents a stronger spear point. Only he knows how to make it. Every discovery disappears with the person who made it. Now imagine the second camp. A child asks why wolves never cross one particular valley. An elder answers with a story from 30 winters earlier. One hunter describes fresh mammoth tracks. Another explains how changing winds reveal nearby predators. Someone remembers the winter when deep snow trapped the reindeer farther south. By the end of the evening, everyone knows more than they did that morning. Which group survives longer? The answer seems obvious. Knowledge only becomes powerful when it can move from one human mind into another. Long before books, conversation became humanity's first library. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed one of the most fascinating ideas in human evolution. Chimpanzees spend hours grooming one another, picking insects from fur, cleaning one another, strengthening friendships. But grooming has one serious limitation. You can only groom one individual at a time. As human communities slowly became larger, that strategy stopped working. Nature needed something faster. Language. With one conversation, one person could strengthen relationships with 10 people instead of one. One story, one joke, one shared memory, one warning. Suddenly, an entire community felt connected. Talking wasn't replacing work. Talking was doing one of the most important jobs in the camp, building trust, because every successful hunt depended upon trust. Every migration depended upon trust. Every child depended upon trust. Perhaps that's why meaningful conversation still changes our bodies today. When people laugh together, stress hormones fall, oxytocin rises, trust increases. Thousands of generations later, our brains still behave as though we're sitting around the same ancient campfire. As afternoon slowly became evening, the rhythm of the camp changed once again. Children wandered home carrying feathers, interesting stones, and strange sticks they had collected. Hunters returned with repaired spears resting across their shoulders. Someone quietly added another log to the fire. The smell of roasted meat drifted across the camp. Nobody needed to announce dinner. People naturally gathered where humans have gathered for hundreds of thousands of years. Around fire. If fire was humanity's greatest invention, the campfire may have been humanity's first university. No classrooms, no teachers standing at the front, no textbooks. Yet almost every important lesson in life was taught there. An elder pointed toward the stars. Winter comes after those stars appear. A grandmother showed children how to stitch tiny holes before they became dangerous tears. A hunter described falling through thin river ice when he was young. Another explained why mammoths always change direction after the first heavy snowfall. None of these stories sounded like lessons, but every one of them quietly increased someone's chance of surviving. Stories weren't entertainment. They were survival manuals disguised as memories. The children probably didn't realize they were learning. They simply listened, asked questions, copied what adults did. Then one day, without noticing, they became the adults everyone else watched. Learning never stopped. Even play had a hidden purpose. A little boy throwing sticks at a tree wasn't trying to kill time. He was building the same muscles that would someday throw real spears. Children racing each other across uneven ground weren't simply having fun. They were developing balance, endurance, and quick decision-making. Teenagers wrestling beside the river weren't only competing. They were learning how to stay calm when another human pushed back. Even hide-and-seek may have quietly trained observation. Patience. Silence. Every game carried another lesson hidden beneath laughter. Modern childhood often separates learning from play. Ancient childhood combined them so completely that one became impossible without the other. But perhaps the greatest surprise waiting inside prehistoric camps wasn't conversation, or storytelling, or even play. It was music. Archaeologists have discovered flutes carved from bird bones dating back more than 40,000 years. Think about that. Outside, Ice Age winds swept across frozen plains. Mammoths wandered through endless snow. Inside, someone decided life needed music. Music couldn't sharpen a spear. It couldn't build shelter. It couldn't make winter warmer. Yet generation after generation kept creating it. Because surviving has never been enough for human beings. We've always searched for beauty, too. The same is true for art. When archaeologists first entered caves like Chauvet and Lascaux, they expected crude sketches. Instead, they found masterpieces, galloping horses, charging bison, powerful cave lions. Artists even painted across the natural curves of cave walls, so the animals appeared to move when illuminated by flickering firelight. Imagine spending hours painting deep inside a dangerous cave, knowing tomorrow you might still have to hunt. Why would anyone do that? Because humans have never lived on survival alone. We've always needed meaning, beauty, wonder. Perhaps nothing reveals ancient humanity more clearly than compassion. For generations, people imagined prehistoric life as brutally simple. Only the strongest survived. The skeletons tell another story. Archaeologists have uncovered individuals who lived for many years despite injuries that made hunting almost impossible. Broken legs, missing arms, severe disabilities. Some reached old age. That could only happen if somebody shared food, somebody carried them, somebody protected them. Compassion wasn't weakness. It strengthened the entire community. One day, every healthy hunter would become old. Every strong child might someday become injured. Helping others wasn't charity. It was investing in the future of the group. By the end of the day, ancient humans had certainly worked. They hunted, gathered, cooked, built, repaired, prepared for winter. But they had also laughed, talked, sung, played, painted, taught children, comforted the elderly, watched sunsets, sat quietly beside people they loved without feeling guilty that they weren't being productive. Maybe that's the biggest surprise of all. When we ask, what did ancient humans do all day? We're asking the wrong question. The better question is, what happened to the part of the day that once belonged to simply being human? 20,000 years later, we own washing machines, cars, computers, airplanes, machines that save us thousands of hours every year. Yet millions of people still end each evening saying exactly the same thing. I didn't have enough time today. Maybe ancient humans weren't luckier than we are. Life was undoubtedly harder. Winter was colder. Food was uncertain. Children faced dangers we can barely imagine. But perhaps they understood one truth we've slowly forgotten. A meaningful life isn't built by filling every hour. It's built by making sure the hours that matter belong to the people who matter. Thank you for watching Human Stories. If this story changed the way you see the everyday lives of our ancient ancestors, we'd love to have you join us for another journey into humanity's forgotten past. Until next time, keep wondering how the smallest moments from thousands of years ago continue to shape the lives we live today.